Welcome to our deep dive into something pretty amazing, your own genetic history.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
We're going to be unraveling mysteries hidden inside your DNA
Absolutely.
and uncover the story of human migration,
It's right.
adaptation, and evolution.
All written in your genes.
Yeah, it's like we're translating your genetic code into this, fascinating narrative.
And what's remarkable is that each of our genomes
Yeah,
holds a record of human history.
I love that.
It's a story that spans millennia, continents,
Wow.
encounters with other human species you might not even know existed.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
So that's going to be really interesting to dive into.
absolutely.
But I have to say, when I start thinking about all this, like the vastness of time
Right.
and the complexity of genetics,
Yeah, it can be overwhelming.
it can be.
For sure.
That's why you're here,
I'm here to guide you
to guide us through it all.
through these key discoveries and insights
Yeah.
that reveal the incredible journey of our species and, by extension, your own ancestry.
Perfect. And, we were given some really incredible sources for this deep dive,
We were.
including this fascinating article
Yeah.
about the discovery of 47 teeth in southern China,
47 teeth,
which is crazy to me.
dating back over 80,000 years,
Oh, wow.
providing evidence of the earliest unequivocally modern humans.
Unequivocally.
Modern humans
Nice.
in southern China.
Wow.
Pushing back the timeline of human migration out of Africa.
So not just out of Africa,
Not just out of Africa.
but like multiple different routes.
It suggests a more complex journey for our ancestors.
Which is already like rewriting what I thought I knew.
Absolutely.
And speaking of surprises,
Yeah.
we weren't alone on this journey.
We were not
We're
alone.
talking about Neanderthals and Denisovans,
Yes.
other hominin species.
That roamed the earth alongside our ancestors.
Right, so they weren't just like our ancestors, but they were like
They were coexisting
coexisting.
at the same time. And analysis of ancient DNA has revealed that our ancestors didn't just coexist with these other hominins,
Okay.
but interbred with them,
What?
leaving traces of their DNA in our genomes today.
Okay, so they interbred.
They did.
So how much of our DNA can we trace back to these encounters?
For people with European or Asian ancestry,
Okay.
it's estimated that around 1 to 4% of their DNA comes from Neanderthals.
Wow, that's crazy.
And some populations, particularly in Southeast Asia and Oceania, even have Denisovan genes,
Okay.
though the exact percentage varies.
So these ancient encounters are literally written into our DNA.
They are.
But what were these interactions actually like?
That is the question.
I mean, meeting another human-like species
Right.
for the first time.
It must have been quite an experience.
It would have been crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
So, early depictions often portrayed Neanderthals as brutish cavemen.
Yeah, that's what I always pictured,
Yeah.
hunched over.
Yeah, but recent evidence suggests a more nuanced picture. Discoveries like intentional Neanderthal burials point to complex social structures and potentially even symbolic thought,
So not just simple brutes,
not just simple Bruce.
but potentially sophisticated.
Yeah,
With their own cultures and rituals.
exactly.
Okay, that totally changes my perspective.
Yeah.
But, I imagine, given we were all competing for the same resources,
Right.
it couldn't have always been peaceful.
You're right. There's evidence of both conflict and cooperation
Makes sense.
between early humans and other hominins.
Right.
The story is complex, and scientists are still piecing together the details
Right.
of these ancient interactions.
So let's shift focus to Europe a little bit,
Okay.
since that's where a lot of our listeners'
Right.
ancestry likely comes from.
A large part.
What does genetic research tell us about the ancestral origins?
Okay. So Europe's genetic history
Yeah.
is fascinatingly complex.
Okay.
It's been shaped by multiple waves of migration
Oh, wow.
and what geneticists call admixture,
Admixture.
which refers to the mixing of different populations over time.
Okay, so not just one origin story,
Not one single origin story.
but a tapestry woven from multiple threads.
Okay, so what are some of the key events that have contributed to this genetic tapestry?
Well, first you have the arrival of early hunter-gatherers in Europe,
Okay.
around 45,000 years ago.
Wow.
Then around 9,000 years ago, there was a significant migration of farmers from Anatolia,
Okay.
bringing agriculture with them and spreading their genes throughout Europe.
So it doesn't stop there, right?
It does not stop there.
There must have been other migrations and events
Absolutely.
that further shaped the European gene pool.
Later migrations, like those from the Pontic-Caspian steppe,
Okay.
are thought to be associated with the spread of Indo-European languages.
Oh.
And even events like the Black Death, as devastating as it was,
Right.
left a lasting impact on the genetic makeup
Yeah.
of European populations.
It's amazing how even like these tragic events
Tell me.
became part of our genetic heritage, part of our collective genetic heritage.
Yeah, absolutely. So how does all of this relate to someone listening right now who wants to understand their own European ancestry?
Well, that's where services like Ancestry DNA and 23andMe come in.
Right.
These companies analyze your DNA and compare it to extensive reference databases,
Okay.
allowing them to pinpoint specific regions your ancestors likely came from,
Okay.
like Ireland, Italy, or Scandinavia.
That's amazing.
They look for specific genetic markers that are more common in certain populations
Okay.
due to these historical migrations and admixture events.
So it's like a personalized genetic GPS
It is.
guiding you through your family history.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
But with all this talk of different ancestral groups,
Right.
it makes you wonder about the concept of race, right?
It
And
does.
is there a scientific basis
That's a great question.
for the racial categories we use today?
So the scientific consensus is clear.
Okay.
Race is a social construct,
Okay.
not a biological reality.
So you're saying that while we see physical differences between people,
Yes,
those differences don't actually align with these racial categories
precisely.
that we've created.
While there's genetic variation between individuals and populations,
Right.
these differences don't map onto traditional racial categories.
So would you say that we are more alike than different?
In fact,
Yeah.
there's more genetic diversity within racial groups than between them.
That's a powerful message,
It is.
especially in a world that's so focused on our differences.
It highlights the importance of understanding human diversity
Yeah.
through a scientific lens.
Recognizing both our shared ancestry
Yes,
and the variation within our species.
exactly.
This has already been so much to take in,
It has.
but it's been incredibly fascinating.
I agree.
We've traveled from the dawn of humankind
We have.
to the complexities of race
Yes.
and even like personalized DNA analysis.
It's incredible.
But let's not forget how our genes impact our health.
Right, because that's where things get really exciting
Okay.
in terms of practical applications.
Okay.
Your genes can influence everything from your susceptibility to certain diseases
Right.
to your response to medications.
So knowing our genetic predispositions
Yes.
could revolutionize healthcare.
It could,
Right.
leading to personalized treatments and preventative strategies.
And are tailored to our needs.
Exactly.
Right.
It's certainly a rapidly evolving field.
That's awesome.
We're already seeing personalized medicine being used to tailor treatments for certain cancers
Okay.
and other diseases based on an individual's genetic profile.
That's incredible.
It is.
But it also raises some ethical considerations.
Of course.
Like what happens if we discover we're predisposed to a serious illness?
That's right.
How do we handle that information
Responsibly.
responsibly?
That's a crucial point.
Right.
Genetic information is powerful,
Yeah,
but it needs to be handled responsibly.
absolutely.
We need to ensure that genetic testing is used ethically and that people understand the limitations and potential implications of their results.
Right, because it's not just about the science,
It's not just about the science.
but also the ethical and societal implications.
Yeah, exactly.
This is getting pretty deep.
It is.
We're talking about genetics,
yes.
history,
Yes.
healthcare,
Yes.
and really the nature of who we are.
And who we are.
It's a lot to process,
It is a lot to process.
but it's incredibly fascinating.
It's truly remarkable
Yeah.
that we're only just beginning to unravel the secrets
Right.
hidden within our DNA.
Okay.
There's so much more to learn.
I believe it.
And the implications for our understanding of ourselves and our place in the world are profound.
Well, before we get totally lost in the vastness of it all,
Yes.
let's take a moment to digest everything we've covered so far.
Okay.
We've journeyed from the origins of humankind to the frontiers of personalized medicine,
We have.
all within the first part of our deep dive.
I know, it's amazing. I trust you've had a moment to process all that incredible information about our shared human journey. From ancient migrations to the complexities of race and the potential of personalized medicine. It's a lot to take in.
You're telling me I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that I might have a Neanderthal ancestor somewhere in my family tree.
Yeah.
But you're right, we've covered a lot of ground already. I'm eager to shift gears and look ahead to the future. What does all this genetic knowledge mean for the evolution of our species?
The million-dollar question. Predicting the future of human evolution is a tricky business. But our understanding of genetics gives us some intriguing clues. Globalization, migration, and technology are all playing a role in shaping our genetic landscape.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Globalization means we're more interconnected than ever before, right? People
Mhm.
are moving and mixing all over the world. How does that impact our genes on a global scale?
Well, it's likely leading to increased gene flow between populations that were previously more isolated. This could potentially make us more genetically homogeneous over time as these differences blend together. However, at the same time, we're also seeing a rise in personalized medicine and genetic screening, which could have the opposite effect.
So, while globalization might be blending some genetic differences, technology could be highlighting others. That's a fascinating paradox. It makes you wonder what the future holds for human diversity.
Exactly. Will we become more similar, or will technology allow us to embrace and even enhance our genetic differences? It's a question that scientists are actively exploring.
It's almost like we're standing at a crossroads with the potential to influence the very course of human evolution. But before we get too carried away with these big picture scenarios, let's bring it back to the individual. How can understanding our own genetic history help us live better lives in the here and now?
That's a crucial question. Beyond the realm of personalized medicine, there's the potential for genetic testing to inform lifestyle choices, family planning, and even our understanding of our own strengths and weaknesses.
So it's not just about preventing disease, but about living a more informed and empowered life, right? Knowing your genetic predispositions could help you make choices that align with your unique biology. Can you give us a few concrete examples?
Absolutely. For example, if you know you're genetically predisposed to lactose intolerance, you might make different dietary choices to avoid discomfort. Or if you discover you have a genetic variant linked to a higher risk of skin cancer, you might be more diligent about sun protection.
It's all about making informed choices based on the unique hand we've been dealt, genetically speaking. But let's be real, not everyone is comfortable with the idea of genetic testing. It can be scary to delve into the unknown and potentially uncover information you might not be prepared for, right?
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to approach genetic testing with caution and to have access to reliable information and genetic counseling to help interpret the results. There's also the issue of privacy and potential discrimination based on genetic information, which are valid concerns that need to be addressed.
Those are definitely important points to consider. Imagine if employers or insurance companies had access to your genetic data. It can lead to all sorts of unfair treatment.
It's a valid concern and one that policymakers are grappling with as genetic testing becomes more widespread. We need to ensure that genetic information is used responsibly and ethically, protecting individual privacy and preventing discrimination.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential benefits and risks of genetic testing. But let's not forget that genes aren't everything, right? We talked about the nature versus nurture debate earlier. It's crucial to remember that our environment experiences and choices also play a significant role in shaping who we are.
You're absolutely right. Genes provide a blueprint, but it's our environment and experiences that color in the details. It's this complex interplay that makes each of us unique.
So it's not a simple equation of genes equal destiny. We have agency, the power to make choices that can influence our health behavior and even our future.
Exactly. Understanding our genetic predispositions can be empowering, but it's crucial to remember that we're not simply puppets of our DNA. We have the ability to shape our own lives, even within the framework of our genetic inheritance.
This is where things get really philosophical. Right?
Yeah.
We're talking about free will, destiny, and the very nature of what it means to be human. It's a lot to wrap our heads around.
It is, and I think that's the beauty of exploring genetic history. It's not just about understanding where we came from, but about grappling with fundamental questions about who we are, what makes us tick, and what our potential might be.
We've talked a lot about human evolution, but what about the evolution of our genes themselves? How have our genes changed over time, and what does that tell us about the forces that have shaped our species?
That's a fascinating question. Scientists are actively investigating that, using cutting-edge techniques to analyze ancient DNA and compare it to modern genomes. For example, we've discovered that certain genetic variants, like those associated with lactose tolerance and resistance to certain diseases, have become more prevalent in specific populations over time.
So it's like natural selection in action, with beneficial traits becoming more common because they offer an advantage in specific environments.
Precisely. And by studying these changes, we can gain insights into the evolutionary pressures our ancestors faced and how they adapted to survive and thrive in different parts of the world. For example, the persistence of lactase persistence genes into adulthood is linked to populations that domesticated cattle.
That's incredible. It's like piecing together an evolutionary puzzle, with each genetic variant offering a clue to our past. But it also makes you wonder, what about the future? What new genetic adaptations might emerge as we continue to evolve?
That's a question that sparks the imagination. It's impossible to predict with certainty, but we can speculate based on current trends. For example, as we become more reliant on technology, will we see changes in our cognitive abilities or sensory perception?
It's a wild thought. Imagine if future humans evolved enhanced vision to cope with screen time or developed heightened cognitive abilities to process information more efficiently. Do you think that's really possible?
It's certainly within the realm of possibility, and as we continue to modify our environment, whether through climate change or advances in biotechnology, we're likely to see new selective pressures that could drive further genetic adaptations. It's both exciting and a bit daunting to think about the potential for our species to evolve in ways we can barely imagine.
It is.
Yeah.
And it raises ethical questions about the extent to which we should intervene in the process of human evolution. Do we have the right to manipulate our genes and direct the course of our species? I mean, we've already touched on the idea of designer babies, the potential for genetic engineering to create children with specific traits.
Ah, yes, a topic that always sparks heated debate. It's certainly a complex issue with profound ethical implications. The technology is advancing rapidly, and we're already seeing gene editing techniques being used in research and even in limited clinical trials.
So the potential to manipulate human embryos and alter the genetic makeup of future generations is becoming increasingly real. It's both fascinating and a bit terrifying, right? Where do we go from here? Welcome back to a final part of our deep dive into your genetic history.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. I mean, from the origins of humankind in Africa to manipulating our genes with things like CRISPR, it feels like we've covered like the entire span of human existence.
It has been a very wide-ranging conversation.
Yeah, it has.
And in this final segment, I think it's time to step back and reflect on what we've learned.
Okay, let's do some synthesizing.
Yeah.
We started by exploring how our genes tell a story of migration, admixture, and adaptation.
Right.
And turns out we're all way more interconnected than we might think.
Absolutely.
With traces of ancient ancestors and distant relatives like hidden in our DNA.
And what's fascinating is that this interconnectedness really challenges the notion of race as a biological category. Right. It highlights that fluidity of human populations.
Okay.
And the artificiality of the racial boundaries that we've constructed.
It's a powerful reminder that we're all part of one big human family.
We are.
With a shared history.
We are.
And a common destiny.
Absolutely.
But as we delve deeper into our genetic makeup, we also encounter the potential for things like personalized medicine, genetic screening, and even gene editing.
And this is where things get ethically complex.
Right.
We're talking about the ability to predict and potentially prevent diseases.
Yeah.
To make informed reproductive choices, and even to alter the genetic makeup of future generations.
It's like we're holding the keys to the kingdom, but with that power comes tremendous responsibility.
It does.
We need to ensure that these technologies are used ethically, equitably, and with deep respect for human dignity and autonomy.
I couldn't agree more. The future of human evolution is in our hands.
Wow.
And we need to approach these advancements with wisdom, humility, and a commitment to the well-being of all humankind.
Okay, so we've talked about the science, the ethics, and the potential implications of this genetic revolution.
Yeah.
But what does it all mean for you, the listener? What can you take away from this deep dive into your own genetic history?
I think the most important takeaway is a sense of wonder and connection.
Okay.
Your genes tell a story that spans millennia, continents, and countless generations.
Wow.
It's a story of survival, adaptation, and the enduring power of the human spirit.
It's a story that reminds us that we're not just isolated individuals.
Or not.
But part of something much bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely.
And that we're connected to the past, to each other, and to the future of our species.
And I think understanding your genetic history can foster a sense of humility and appreciation for the incredible diversity of human life.
That's a great point.
It's a reminder that our differences are what make us unique.
Yeah.
And that our shared humanity is what binds us together.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. If our genes influence our health, behavior, and even our future, to what extent are we truly in control of our own lives?
The age-old question of free will versus determinism. It's a question that has plagued philosophers for centuries, and one that genetic science adds a new layer of complexity to.
Definitely. It's a question without easy answers, but I think exploring your genetic history can help you navigate this complex terrain.
It can.
It allows us to acknowledge the influence of our genes while also recognizing the power of our choices,
Our choices.
experiences, and the environments we create.
It's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I believe that understanding your genetic predispositions can empower you to make more informed choices
Okay.
and to live a more fulfilling life.
Yeah.
It's not about surrendering to your genes, but about harnessing their power to shape your own destiny.
Beautifully said. And on that empowering note, we come to the end of our deep dive into your genetic history. I hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as we have.
It's been an honor to share this exploration with you. And remember, this is just the beginning. The more we learn about our genes, the more we discover about ourselves, our shared history, and our incredible potential for the future.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep embracing the wonders of genetic science. Until next time.